Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Influential You podcast. I'm Josh D'Amigo, program faculty member for Influential You and your host for this weekly podcast. At Influential You, we teach you how to take charge of your career and amplify your professional influence. Since 2009, we've helped thousands of business owners, executives, and entrepreneurs become more influential, more rewarded, and more you. This month, we've had a lot of fun couples that have come in, but none are quite as fun as this couple that you're going to have today, because we're celebrating the condition of life known as relationship. And every week, we've had these couples that have completed our advanced program here at Influential You to hear how their relationships have fared due to their study of transactional competence. Now, our first couple is the couple we'll have today, but we lost the recording, and I was so bummed that we made sure that we got it back because they were here in studio, and now they're going to be joining us from Perth. But let me tell you a little bit about them first. Paul Harris and Dr. Moira Clay live in Perth, Australia, and they are an absolute delight. As you're about to hear and as you're about to see, Paul is a judge personality. He holds a deconstructivist skeptical worldview, and Moira is a performer personality with a more constructivist worldview. Now, they are joining me from their home in Perth, and I'm really excited. It's 7 o'clock for them, so talk softly, but please welcome Paul Harris and Dr. Moira Clay to the Influential You podcast. Hey, you two, how are you doing?
Hi, Josh.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm so happy you're here. Now, before we start anything, I have to have you tell me the story of how you met, because the story of how you met is one of my favorite stories I've heard in the last month and a half. But Moira, you tell the story so well. Tell me exactly how you met this Paul character.
Well, I got a phone call from a mutual friend who said that she had this friend who had purchased a very large chocolate rabbit in a football club event, and he would like to donate it to the kids' cancer ward at the Children's Hospital. And can I make that happen? And I kid you not, quite literally, my eyes rolled and I thought, oh, another do-gooder in the world. But I thought, I want to make this happen. So I contacted the hospital, and then I rang Paul and I said, I'll meet you at the front of the hospital. How will I know you? And he said, I'll be the man with the very large chocolate rabbit.
Oh.
And shall we say the rest is history? The chocolate rabbit brought us together.
Now, maybe we need to go back and why don't we introduce what you do, Moira, for those that haven't heard your previous podcast. Tell us a little bit about your offer in the marketplace so we can kind of put that frame in mind.
Sure. So my offer is Moira Clay Consulting. It's my consultancy business I've established here in Perth. And we help medical research leaders sleep at night. We help them achieve their lofty aims, design a pathway to achieve their big aims, which is around benefiting community health.
Wonderful. And then Paul, same question. Tell us a little bit about you. I know you from our Toastmasters Club, but tell us a little bit about who you are.
Thanks, Josh. I am now officially retired as of late last year. Prior to that, I was probably the last 13 years was involved in implementing autonomous haul trucks to Australia. So part of the team that pioneered driverless trucks, not the little trucks, these are 300-ton trucks. So that's what I was doing recently. But now I'm enjoying the retired life and making sure Moira has her needs. I do the lunches. I make a wicked Caesar salad if you're in town. So pop in and I make a nice cup of coffee as well. So.
I love all of that. And how do you say, is it a cuppa? Is that a New Zealand thing and not an Australian thing? So I'm messing it up already?
Yeah, you are messing up. That's
well, go figure. I'm going to get that right eventually. But I'll say this. You go in and you're here to donate a chocolate rabbit, and you meet this woman. And now from your perspective, tell us the story. How did this all go down for you?
Well, pretty much the same. It was a Easter raffle at the footy club, and some guy was bidding, and he had two really obnoxious kids, and they didn't deserve it, so I outbid him. But the lines sort of concerned me a little bit when Moira said, "How will I recognise you?" I'm going like, "This is a professor, a scientist, a very well-known person. I would be the guy with a really big chocolate bunny." So I wasn't sure what was going to happen after that. But as Moira says, the rest is history. I met a wonderful person and realised how popular she was when it took us 45 minutes to walk across 35 metres of car park because people walked and yeah, I suppose that was the start of our relationship.
And Moira, you had received donations before, but you said you loved his kindness and generosity. What was it that stuck out about Paul when you met him that made him like scream kindness and generosity?
Yeah, look, he has always been a very giving person to me, and he was genuinely present when we were in the kids' cancer ward at the hospital. He didn't want that huge amount of chocolate for himself. He wanted to share it for kids who needed to have a smile on their face. They needed something good in their life, and he wanted to give that to them. And it was the start of a long journey of generosity where he has exemplified that every step of the way. And it really has meant a huge amount to me.
Now, you said something about the idea that he was you were intrigued by he was intrigued by you. Paul, you said you were intrigued by her because when you guys were walking, you literally only went like a few steps and she knew every single person. And Moira, what was that like for you? Like, tell me the story from your perspective. Like, you're walking by and you're seeing friends. Like, what was that like? Tell the whole thing.
It's very normal for me. As I walk through some of these major facilities in Perth, I know a lot of people there, and I want to say hello. I want to talk to them and see how their day is going and what's happening for them. It's quite usual. It felt quite normal, and Paul was looking back going, what's going on? We just need to get to our cars. And I just wanted to talk.
And Paul, when you're seeing that for the first time and you're seeing how popular this Dr. Moira Clay is, what is going through your head? Like, what is it, like a social proof thing? Like, tell me what's going on in your brain with all of that.
Yes, now understanding and done the study, social proof is 100%. So the first function we went to, I said, okay, let's head off, and I'm heading out to the elevator and I'm looking around and okay, Moira must have gone somewhere. Have you seen Moira? Oh, she's over there. So I'm ready to go in about 5 minutes. Like, we've had our goodbyes, not for Moira. So if we go to a function and it's based around the people that she knows, I give her a 45-minute warning. I say, we're going in 45 minutes because it'll take at least 45 minutes for her to clear the room. So now and everyone accepts it. Paul, Moira doing her goodbyes? Yeah. So I just go and might have another canapé or something like that, and just have a little chat. But yeah, definitely the relationship side of it, the social proof was like, yeah, this is a pretty cool dude.
Oh.
Dudette, as you would say. Dudette.
That's so good. All right. Now, I have to say that my family was similar. Now, my mom was kind of a judge. Father's kind of a producer. Judge, inventor, producer, and mom was very talkative at church. And I tell you, my dad, when he was ready to go, he was ready to go. And mom was like, no, we have to talk to all the people. And it's so fun. And I know she'll be watching this. So just know, Mom, we love you. And thank you so much. Now, how did you guys get involved with Influential Youth? Who did it first? And tell me a little bit about how you found out about us and how it went down for you.
I got involved first, and it was Dr. Gary Ward, who's here in Perth, and he said to me those famous words, "I'd like to introduce you to transactionalism." And I was like, what? What is that? And he introduced me to Drew, and Drew and I arranged a call. And to be honest, back in those days, I thought, okay, I'm going to humor him. I'm going to humor Drew. I'll have a conversation with him, but I'm pretty well covered with all of this. I think I'm good. Anyway, I had a conversation with Drew, and I got off that call and I thought, I can't not do this.
Wow.
I need to do this. It was a huge realization for me that this was a pathway to help me achieve not just my business aims, but my aims. So it was the whole of me. It was all of the different parts of me. And I thought, this is something I can't afford not to do. So I started the process and went through FOT. And do you want to take the story from there?
So the first conference that I attended was in Cabo. So Moira had finished FOT and started MAP with a lot of people, and MAP was a different setup then. So there was all these people in Moira's study group from New Zealand and around the world running around like, kindergarten kids, getting into their groups, having their little breakfast meetings, and I'm the only practicing FOT person at the conference. Lots of people have done it, but just weren't there. So, but backstepping to that, Moira would come in with FOT papers into my study and say, "What about this?" And the money, and they want me to answer all these questions and this lingo, and it was like. Now I know the lingo game really well, but it's like, this is a cult. I'm not sure about this. And it's funny to talk to lots of other people that have partners and have gone through similar situations. Many, haven't both completed the course. But then Moira went on to finish MAP, and then I'll hand it back to her. That's her story.
Yeah, no, Paul had said quite clearly, I am not doing this.
Right.
I do not need to do it. I've got the benefit of this study through you, and it was a flat no. But as we know, with judges, no means maybe. And things changed for Paul. His work circumstances changed, and he made the decision that going through FOT was going to be a really good pathway for him to help him work out sort of what he wanted to do, where he wanted to go with his career, and so it began. The dual journey, both of us, the dual pathway.
I love it, and it also is it's wonderful for me because I entered the scene a little after you guys and started working here, and 4.5 years later, I've got one of the best timers in Toastmasters history in my Toastmasters club with Paul. It's wonderful. So speaking of the transactional personalities, Moira, this is kind of fun. I'd like you to explain the judge, and then after you're done, Paul, I'd like you to explain the performer leaning inventor that is Moira.
Well, I have two examples of judginess.
Okay.
We were quite excited because we had a trip planned to Adelaide. And I was really looking forward to this. And I literally went bouncing into Paul's office. Can you just imagine a performer bouncing? And I was in Paul's office and I said, "So, do you want to do this thing called the stadium climb, where you get to climb up the top of the big football stadium there and look at everything from up high?" And he looks at me and he says, "No." Oh, flowers died. I was so looking forward to this, and I'm kind of adventurous and I want to try new things. And he said, "No." And it was just, the mood crashed. But what he wanted to know how long it was going to take, how much it was going to cost, what was going to be involved. He wanted to know the facts, and I hadn't given him those facts. So that was a really good indication to me, just apart from when we're on the road and Paul is driving, and he will say to other drivers on the road, "But you can't do that. It's not right. It's against the rules." I said, "Well, actually, they can change lanes. It's fine, dear." So that's my judginess. That's my judgy husband.
How do you top that?
Well, you can't, but we'll let you try.
Yeah. Look, Moira's every bit performer now. When she first started, she would have said she was in the inventor sphere, and she probably was a little bit more, but she's definitely the performer, the people person, keeping the groups happy. Every now and again, riding around in that little clown car and just having a good time, but assuring that, everyone's happy. and that's the biggest thing. It's about the other people with Moira. It's not about herself. And I think, you know, a lot of performers get caught up in that area, that they're constantly looking after others, and sometimes they need to tend to themselves. And the whole relationship condition of life helps with that. Hence, you know, our chat today. But it's like, yeah, Moira's just a lovely, I'll look after you type of person, as you know, Josh.
I do know. I know very well. I can't say that I have had many friends overseas that check on me quite as much as Dr. Moira Clay, and it is the joy of my heart when I see a little text message from her, and it's like, "Hey, how was your marathon? Hey, how was this? Hey," and I'm like, "Oh, she does love me. People love me. It's wonderful." So thank you both of you guys. Even Paul, every once in a while when you say, "Hey, how you doing, chum?" I'm like, "Oh, cool, very good." So I'll say this. Does understanding your partner's transactional personality help to see things from their worldview? And do you guys see a benefit to kind of understanding the thinking, and maybe have anything to compare it to, or anything that you can kind of tell me about, like what it's like after the study, knowing that your partner thinks kind of the opposite of you?
Yeah, look, I actually don't think we think in opposites. I think we have quite aligned aims, but different approaches to achieve those aims. But I think what the study has done for us is bring us together in more of a deliberate, unpacked kind of way. And we through working together, through transacting with each other, we've been able to overcome challenges. We've been able to achieve things that, to be honest, we thought were not going to happen. Because we can just take it step by step, simple transaction by simple transaction, and we can work together, really optimizing the benefits of each other's personality rather than actually, you know, like this. And I think if we hadn't had the study, potentially there would have been more of this. But now there's more of actually working together and doing things and actually reaching mutual satisfaction, which is great. Works for us. What about you?
Yeah, look, understanding personalities is really important now. I used to struggle and try and work out, you know, are they inventor? Are they performer? Judges and producers were pretty easy for me because I was a judge and producers because everything's on a checklist, so it doesn't matter. And the inventor now is just so far out there. But when you understand yours, and then you get to understand your partners, and it does change the approach, because my favourite word is no. It's not going to happen. You know, well, you're doing it wrong. That's against the rules. You know, and when you step back from that and then take into what they want to do, I want to please people. Okay, how can we do this? And you associate that with getting clear aims at the beginning of everything, and then you've got a broadsheet to work on rather than pie in the sky. And you see people around the shops or restaurants, or you can see they're not transacting very well there, and you can steam's coming out of their ears, or it's just stop and have a think about the point of view or the views of that person. So I used to go into a meeting when I was on, working for Rio and FMG on site, and I'd have the personality structure in my book to try and work out where we are in this transaction. And I still struggle, like John Patterson and you and Moira can pick them so easy. I'm still going, I'm not sure. But understanding each other is really important in that way. It just slows everything down.
Yeah, I love that for so many reasons. In my own world, like understanding those personalities and being able to say, slow myself down enough to say, hey, they may not want that excited clown in a golf cart right now. They may need a little more subdued Josh. How about you calm yourself down a little bit? Still be authentic to myself, but bring forth the information that you're trying to bring with a different temperament, a different mood that matches a little bit. And that's been really valuable to me. So do you find that understanding, like, you avoid struggles? And if so, is there any example that you can kind of talk about maybe the thinking that goes in when that inductive kick comes in, or when that stimuli hits. Do you guys have any stories or anything like that you can share with us?
Yeah, look, I think the example of the stadium climb in Adelaide,
That's right.
where it was like, boom, this is bad. But then we actually sat down afterwards and we talked about it, and we realised that, okay, this is a better mood to go into the conversation with, for me to actually be providing information, be providing facts. So I think it's helped us. I mean, we can now see where things don't necessarily go on track. We can see it, and we can sort of have the inquiry afterwards, rather than getting stuck in the mud, so to speak. We can really say, well, why didn't that work? What's happening here? And then, back up the transaction and move forward. And it actually works quite well. We don't often fight, do we?
No, we'll have discussions. Another really good example is that we were putting some trees in out the back by our pool area, which is out here, and we'd had to take some other ones out because they were dead. They were dying. We trimmed them a few times, and anyway, Moira's brother was here, and he had a horticultural background, so we looked at the soil and it was pretty crap. So it started off, we'll just put new trees in there. And it was like, okay, we have to really back this up and have a look back and sit down. So we did the planning session and, looked at what resources we had. And it became like 5 different little projects instead of just planting new trees in the backyard. And, we had to get some new soil. We had to build up a bed because we had old trees that had tree roots, and we had to go and shop for the right trees. That was an exercise in its own right. Like, Paul, you don't want those trees. They will put leaves in your pool, but they look nice. I've got a jacaranda next door that puts leaves in my pool. So that example is, like you break it down together instead of going straight into, we put the trees in and, actually that didn't work, did it? So rework is something that a judge hates, especially from the mining industry. It costs millions of dollars. Rework. So, if you're going to not being the one to have to do it 10 times, I'd rather sit down and go for a swim than, let's do it once and try and get it as accurate as possible.
And I think what Paul said about taking it step by step has really worked, sort of having those small steps, really starting to break it down instead of just going into this sort of full-on chaos, has meant that we're so much more aligned. We're working with each other. We're on the same path. We know the personalities are not coming up against each other. They're actually working for each other, and we can see the progress. It's been remarkable that on so many different things. I've said to Paul, my goodness, we've done all these things that we set out to do. Our aims, we've achieved that. But it's really just a step-by-step process, not just a bang, we've done it. It's through transacting with each other rather than getting, I think, overwhelmed by it.
And not getting caught up in a mob mentality, like just because everyone else is doing it, questioning that and going like, no, they're going that way, we might go this way.
Yeah, I love that. And if you're just joining us on the podcast and you're just listening, we've got Dr. Moira Clay and Paul Harris. And now I'm going to move a little bit. This is kind of different. I don't think I asked this in our last recording. Now, the unit that is the couple, I've come up with a couple names, Poira, Mal, and Paulra, but I don't know if any of those are going to stick. I'd love to hear, like, when you guys are in couple, like in the unit that the two of you are together, do you guys have little secret things of like, hey, your personality is showing, or like, how does that work in the dynamic when you're like out as a group? And I'll as you're thinking about it, I'll give you an example. Last night I was a young business professional mixer, and I met with one of my friends. She's a performer, very clearly a performer. She's a Zumba instructor and just energy. And she introduced me to her husband for the first time. And I said, what do you do? And he goes, well, I lost all my money in Bitcoin trading, and I mean, it was just screaming judge, and I went, oh goodness. So I'd love to hear what that's like as the unit that the two of you are in tandem when you come across people, and tell me your experience of that, if you're okay with that.
Moira just tells me to shut up. No, not at all. Look, I suppose we introduce each other or other people. The upside is that all Moira's friends became mine, and all mine became Moira, to the extent where some of them prefer to talk to Moira now instead of me, which is really a little bit disconcerting, especially when one of them was the lady that's been dealing with the wine shop for 14 years, and just, Paul, you go over there. I'm just going to talk to Moira. And I thought, Anne-Marie, I spent a lot of money in your shop. Yeah, that's fine. You'll be okay. You just go and talk to Dad over there. So we're really aware of, not putting people on the spot, but just, like, we are what we are,
Yeah.
and we like it. We're good at being nice,
And I think the other thing for me is the planning. Like, if we have people coming over to our home, we're going to someone else's home, we're going to an event, we plan. We plan ahead of that. As in, these people are going to be there. This is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
This is who's involved. We actually prepare. We have that plan ahead of time, so we know what's coming, and it does help us in navigating potential breakdowns, and we know roughly what's.
Hide the food. Josh is coming.
Yeah. Hide the Vegemite.
Hide the Vegemite. Yeah.
So good. Now we're kind of towards the end of the podcast, and I'm so bummed because I'm having so much fun, and I'm going to miss you guys so much after we get off this call. But I wanted to ask this: as a couple who kind of came together in your lives, are there things that you can teach me? Because what I love to find in some of these podcasts, the last time you talked about the 7-second hug, so I may make you do that regardless of what your answer is. But what are some, advice for other couples that maybe haven't studied with us or aren't necessarily using transactional competence? Like, what would you say about kind of your experience with Influential You and learning this, and where has it really been helpful for the two of you? And then teach me a little bit about what you guys do with each other in relationship and how those things work. I'd love to hear all the knowledge I can gain from the two of you.
I think for me, I got married when I was 51. People say, is it your first marriage? I say it's my only marriage. And I think the one of the reasons why it has worked for me, and our ongoing relationship has worked, is that we have clarity on who we are. We know who we are. We know sort of what our aims are, and we've got to a certain point in our life where it's not about impressing people. It's not about what you look like or anything like that. We know who we are, and it's made that coming together and falling in love. It feels right. It's not something that we were searching for. We came across each other, and there was a real alignment there. And I think, just to go straight into the 7-second hug thing, I think we have this thing, and this is a transaction with each other. I will happily call it a transaction. Pretty much every day, sometimes multiple times a day, we have a 7-second hug. Now, the concept behind a 7-second hug is that you need to hug for 7 seconds without counting. Don't count out loud. And that's where the connection and the love transfers. And some people say it should be longer than 7 seconds, but we make sure it's at least 7 seconds. And I think it's a measure of where we're at, how we're progressing, how our relationship is to have 7-second hugs. And all I can advise you, Josh, is know who you are, know your aims, 7-second hug a lot, and life will be good.
Paul, anything you want to add?
Yeah, it's the 7-second hug is really made a big difference to us. But the other thing is sharing stuff that we like with each other. We share music, and and it's really good bonding because we know what each other needs and what we want. Like it can be a funny household sometimes because like we can go into transactional speak mode. So if someone is not understanding the lingo as much, it's like there's a lot of transactional words that people will hear. Many you'll know from study, and other ones won't because they haven't done it yet. But and that can be a little bit of fun, a little bit of transactional humour, as we would say. And then we might roll the eyes at each other and go, okay, that's enough of that. But it's, and I think we said it even yesterday. There's two clear things about everything, and come out of conference as well, is be clear. And Kirkland has pushed so much, but get your aims right. If you don't have an aim, you don't have a pathway. Moira was talking about PSTI that some people will know. What comes first? Well, you have to have an aim before you can practice the planning, etc. So, and if you're not sure, sit down and grab a cup of tea or a coffee, or in the afternoon, in your case now, a beer or wine, and just have a chat about it. What's the aim here? Well, we want to get the trees growing. We want to have a good time. Who's coming over? Well, we can't have that. It's just really simple. It's pretty simple, actually. Just
simple is good.
Simplistic is really good.
It's called the KISS principle.
Keep it simple, stupid. I know that one really well. I like it, unless you guys use a different S word at the end of that one. But that's how
that'll be fun.
Keep it simple, sunshine.
Well, thank you guys so much for being on the podcast. And I missed you already. I know I just saw you at conference, but I can't wait to get out there. And trust me, I'm doing everything I can to talk all these people to come out there. So thank you so much for being on the podcast today. And I'm going to take us out. Any last words before we go?
Just thank you.
Thank you.
It's a nice experience to be able to share and
to do it together.
Yeah, do it together.
Oh, you guys are so cute. Okay.
I will give you a 7-second hug, Josh.
Oh, well, not with that attitude. Oh, stupid cute. Teehee, take him off the screen so I can focus. All right. Thank you guys so much. Now, if you'd like to know more about us, you can find out more by going to influentialu.global and explore our courses, consulting, and conferences. And we offer a 4-year curriculum for those that are seeking an advanced experience. However, if you're brand new to Influential You, you may want to try Thrive. It's our self-guided training. Now, Thrive is a self-guided program that lets you learn at your own pace. Thrive members enjoy weekly live e-coaching sessions and an ever-expanding library of exclusive video lessons with our faculty, thought leaders, and industry experts. You'll get proven proprietary tools to accurately assess your career and develop a realistic strategy to achieve your aims even faster. Your membership also includes chat access to faculty, plus discounts to our transformative conferences. You can sign up today and use the promo code 20OFF, that's 20OFF, for a 20% discount on the monthly subscription. As you can see on the screen, 20 off, 20OFF. Now, we're feverishly working on next week's podcast, and I hope that you'll join us. Thank you for listening to us today. Each week, we stream live at 2 p.m. Pacific on our website, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, so you can easily share this podcast with others. You can also subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, or anywhere else that you get quality podcasts. Check out our show notes for links to connect with our guests, plus links to websites, books, or special downloads that we talked about on today's episode. This podcast is made possible by the Influential You staff, faculty, and members all around the world. With a special thanks to our executive producer, Tyson Crandall, our engineer, Michael Teehee, contributions from John Patterson, Joey Anderley, Daryl Anderley, Paul West, and Liz Smiley, and a big old special 7-second hug to Paul and Moira. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. The Influential You podcast is produced by Influence Ecology, LLC in Ventura, California, and this episode was recorded on March 2nd, 2023. The podcast theme is by Chris Standring, entitled Fast Trained Everywhere. And if you haven't yet offered a rating or review, I ask that you take a moment, go to iTunes or your podcast app, and let us know what you think. This helps us more than you know. We'll see you next week on the Influential You podcast.